Continue on our tradition that we've had since Coach has been here, is bringing back a former player to be a guest speaker. This year's speaker was a 2003 Foxboro Warrior, a successful football and track player, continued a successful college football career at Georgetown University. My pleasure to bring up John Lancaster.
Yeah, Johnny!
That doesn't fall. Good afternoon. 10 years ago, I was a senior, sitting right where you are now. After the banquet, Coach came up to me and told me one day I'd have the responsibility of being the guy up here to deliver the banquet speech. A wave of nervousness washed over myself as I thought, yeah, right, that day will never come. Well, I was wrong, and now I stand in front of you, still nervous, but excited. You know the feeling you get right before you step on the field before a big game. I would like to say what an honor it is to be here, invited to speak to all of you today, and to live up to Coach's prediction. Today, I'd like to share with you part of my story. I'd like to share what I've learned in my many years of living life and playing football. To do that properly, let me first tell you a bit about who I am, where I'm from, and where I've been. Like all of you sitting here, I'm a product of the Foxboro school system. I went to kindergarten at a school that doesn't exist anymore called the Lewis. I went to elementary school at the Borough, 4th grade at the Van Igo, middle school at the John J. Hearn, 8th grade in high school, and I finally graduated from Foxboro High School in 2004. After that, I went on to study computer science and play 1AA football at Georgetown University in the Patriot League. Currently, I keep myself busy by building mission-critical websites for every embassy in the world at the U.S. Department of State in Washington, D.C. We reach millions of people around the globe every month in over 60 different languages. Aside from my day job, I'm working towards earning my master's degree this May in information systems at George Washington University. I've also been fortunate enough to coach high school football at Gonzaga High School down in Washington, D.C. I've managed to have a life, travel a bit, and take care of my dog. From this description, my life till now seems to detail an accomplished and linear progression, one success building on the next. A simple cadence: high school, play sports, graduate. College, play football, graduate. Get a job, adopt a dog, get a master's degree. Simple, right? Well, if you're like me and you play football, you know that getting the cadence is far from easy. It takes practice, and a lot of it. It takes making mistakes, and a lot of them. It takes endurance. You have to be willing to fail and try again over and over to achieve success. What I really want to talk to you about today is facing adversity and overcoming it. As football players, we do this every game, but often don't realize how it prepares us for life outside of the stadium. Football is a metaphor for life. If you haven't heard the saying before, remember it. Internalize it. No other sport comes close to making this comparison. Football is the only sport that has the capacity to evoke exhilarating highs and inevitable, sometimes debilitating lows that truly make the game what it is. The same thing can be said about life. If you can't get used to that, you're going to have a hard time achieving your goals. Because at the end of the day, it's all about how you respond to the highest highs and the lowest lows. Truly successful people take wins in stride. They enjoy the moment briefly, but don't get carried away. Similarly, they acknowledge a loss by learning the lesson, and then move forward, armed with the experience, but not burdened by it in the next play. No matter your definition of success, achieving it means pressing ever forward, never dwelling on the past. You may have heard words of wisdom like this before. However, today, I would like to color this simple piece of advice with a story of how I learned it. I did not learn it in a college course. I did not learn it by reading a book. I certainly did not learn it by watching a Duracell commercial about a deaf Seahawks player on YouTube. This knowledge was earned through hard-wrought, first-hand experience. which is often the only way to truly learn anything. I'd like to share with all of you today 2 experiences in which I learned that the only way out of a seemingly impossible situation is to shake it off and move forward. Saturday, September 15th, 2001. 4 days after the most tragic and historic event our nation has ever faced, I was a sophomore starting on varsity kick return. I can still remember the distinct personal exhilaration I felt at the beginning of that game. I was one of only 2 sophomores to start on varsity. I was proud of that. The hard work in the weight room and on the track I put in during the off-season had paid off. At the same time, I was experiencing the palpable confusion, fright, and sorrow of those harrowing days with my teammates. We helped each other move forward together as a team, in spite of the painfully recent tragedy, to play that game. On that day, I would have my first varsity play of my career, a kickoff right to me, return for 15 yards. On that day, I would also have my second and last play of the season, again, a kickoff right to me. However, at the end of my jaunt downfield, I did not walk off the field. I was carried off. During that second play, I sustained a devastating hit to my left side, rupturing my spleen. An ambulance ride later, I was in the intensive care unit at Children's Hospital in Boston, where I spent 4 days and nights with internal bleeding. I then spent another week and a half laid up in a hospital bed. It was a terrible way to end the season. And at the time, I wondered if it was also an end to my football career. If it was up to my mother, the answer would have been a resounding yes. However, for better or for worse, the impact this accident would have on my life was up to me to decide. Could I fight back physically and mentally to overcome? This was my first true bout with adversity. I could either pack it in and switch to a lower impact sport like basketball or baseball, or I could try and come back. If you've been paying any attention to my story, you can guess which route I chose. I vividly remember the first time I was allowed to get out of my bed and sit up. It seemed like years had passed. My mother wheeled me over to the hospital window so I could take a look outside. The world was still there, hustling and bustling, moving forward, not waiting for me. A week prior, I was at my physical peak. Now, I was weak, immobile, a shell of my former self. I was not part of the outside world. I was stuck in a hospital. This lit a fire in me. At this moment, I resolved to recover without sacrificing my passion for life or for football. I quickly realized this choice meant that I needed to fight to come back. In high school, football was my life. Football was my passion. To pursue your passion is to pursue life. Once you come to grips with the fact that you will always face some kind of adversity, you will realize that this is the only option. In that moment, while I had manifested an intent to fight back, I did not know if my endeavors would prove to be successful. Regardless, I was determined to do everything in my power to make sure that this was not my final contribution to football. With this determination, I came back with a vengeance. My junior year, I tallied 115 tackles, the second most on the team. I pulled down 5 interceptions, with 3 coming in one game, and I blocked 2 field goals. I was pretty happy about all of that. I had fought back to where I wanted to be. Junior year was looking up. I began to get contacted by Division I football schools. I was priming to run a good 40 at Boston College football camps in the hopes that they would offer me full scholarship. I was riding high, feeling good, and beating the world, just like I had planned. And then life happened again. With 2 months left in my junior year, I was playing pickup basketball at the Booth playground. Not smart. I went up for a rebound and came down bad on my ankle. 3 weeks later, I found out I had broken it. Now, it was time to say goodbye to running my 40 at BC football camp. Time to say goodbye to going to nationals to run the 4x2 and outdoor track. And before those 3 weeks had passed, I would also be saying goodbye to being a student at Zavarian Brothers High School. For the astute listeners out there, you'll have noticed I said I graduated from Foxboro High School. I did not, however, spend all 4 years there. From freshman year to junior year, I was a hawk, not a warrior. As luck would have it, I'd find myself finishing my high school career at the same school I started at in 8th grade. Let me now tell you about the next big bend in my road. Between the weeks of rolling my ankle and finding out it was broken, I was involved in a locker room altercation which escalated into a fight. In an instant, a normal Friday morning after a football lifting session turned into a life-altering event. This incident resulted in the dismissal of myself and my best friend from Zavarian. My parents were not happy with me, and I was extremely disappointed in my own actions and the situation they had put me in. After my appeal of the expulsion was denied, everything changed. My stomach dropped, my head spun, I got a reality check hard and fast. A new kind of adversity reared its head, as a high moment swiftly and unexpectedly became a low one, and then got much worse. As a collegiate hopeful, entering my senior season at a new school, on a new team, did not bode well for my football prospects. I was at a crossroads again. I could either pack it up and throw in the towel, or I could persevere. This time I had done the damage, and now I had to bounce back from the consequences of my own actions. My new path led me back to Foxboro, where I was to finish out high school. I came back as a new kid that everybody already knew. Luckily for me, I could not have come back to a better school, with a better tradition of football, with a better Hall of Fame head coach. Again, I fought back physically and mentally, and as a result, my senior year could not have turned out better. We had a great season, a season that many were projecting to be Coach's first losing season. That did not turn out to be the case. We went 7-3 that year. That year, I also reconnected with the kids I grew up with, the kids I learned to play football with. The game took on a whole new meaning for me personally. It was the best team I had ever been on from top to bottom. The chemistry was unlike anything I had ever experienced and ever would experience. Football was fun at Foxboro. As I look back, that season was one of the most enjoyable football moments of my life. If it wasn't for a major screw-up, I would have never experienced it. At the end of the day, it matters not if the bends in your road are of your own making or of the makings or by the workings of something outside of your control. What matters is how you respond to them. Still a line from Rocky Balboa. It ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That is how winning is done. I've strived to embody this mentality throughout my life. My advice to you is to try and do the same. Be honest with yourself and be honest with those around you. Don't be afraid to fail. And to the parents out there, don't be afraid to let your kids fail. I know you don't want the lost sleep or the gray hairs associated with perceived setbacks. My mom can tell you all about that. However, failure and the reactions to that failure build character. What may appear to be an insurmountable situation could in fact lead to a path of growth and success. Just remember, a bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the turn. In closing, the advice I give you today is easier said than done. You really can't understand what it takes to get through adversity until you're in the thick of it. However, by playing football, you learn valuable lessons and skills needed to meet and overcome adversity in life. You earn them by persevering every practice, every play, every win, and every loss. With the support of a strong team, a strong family, and a strong coaching staff, no obstacle is insurmountable. Fortunately, the Foxboro community has no shortage of these key elements. When it comes to football, more often than not, the Warriors band together in order to win the game. In this weekly pursuit of victory, we are also forming a family. A family that teaches us how to overcome challenges on the field so that we are more capable of overcoming them off the field. I will always be grateful to the Foxboro school system, the Foxboro Warrior football team, and specifically Coach Martinelli, who is like a second father to me, for providing the support and foundation I needed in order to continue forging my path. I would also like to take this chance to thank my parents who are here today, for without their guidance and support, I would have never made it to where I am today. And finally, I would like to thank my big brother Mike, who's always better than me at sports, even though I don't like to admit it, for teaching me how to work hard when no one else is looking, and for being my first role model for whom I aspire to be as talented as. As Warriors, we inherit a strong tradition and a prideful reputation. We carry these badges everywhere we go. I'm proud to be a Warrior, and I'm proud to be celebrating yet another great team in our long and storied history with all of you today. Thank you.